Hello. I figured it was time. Lots of things have accumulated. I haven't had a chance to talk to hardly anybody because we're all stuck in this kind of lockdown scenario. So, I noticed that a lot of these videos I'm wearing my yellow sweater. Get used to it because I love this sweater, man. It's a merino wool sweater that I picked up online from Finland. You won't see another one like it, I don't think. I hope. Anyway, but it's great. So, yellow sweaters are in for as far as I'm concerned. Now, um, what to talk about? Oh, there's so much. Um, one email was sent to me about um, the insistence of Joe Biden, I guess, to use the term doctor because she has a PhD in social sciences from some college or another. Um, you know, I don't object to people under certain conditions, say professor or doctor or whatever. Most normal human beings that are confident and not insecure don't want to be called by these honorariums. They tend to just want to be called by their first name. That's the best I've ever encountered at anything. Typically, are like that. For instance, very quickly, my surgeon that fixed my broken leg just wanted me to call him Dave. So, when the guy's fixing your broken leg, that's what you want to hear. Just call me Dave. Okay, Dave, fix my damn leg. So anyway, um, yeah, that's a little disturbing that Joe Biden's so insecure. She feels like she needs to be called doctor all the time. Anyway, just all the politics in the U.S. right now. You've got the woke on the left screwing things up. You've got the people following Trump down, express lane to hell, and hopefully the middle will figure it out and disavow both. It's looking like I believe Kamala has said that the U.S. is not systemically racist, not a racist country. That's a good sign. Um, Liz Cheney has come out against Trump and is sticking to her guns. So, good sign there. I think the younger people, are going to play the long game anyway, right? They're not going to follow Trump along down his avenue of madness. They should play the long game, and the long game won't be to sell your soul to Trump in an effort to get reelected one time. The that's a problem and a short-term solution to your concerns about getting elected to Congress or Senate. And I think there's going to be a bloodbath on the Republican side, and there should be, because those people who at one time were, the party of the patriot and the party of the conservatives are unfortunately showing themselves to be as weak or weaker than the willy-nilly liberal Democrats. So there is that going on constantly. There's also weird stuff happening where I'm following some people who are talking about the wokeness showing up in businesses and various institutions across the pond over in England, and it's become really apparent to the people who are pushing back on that. Many of these companies and institutions are adopting the language for their institutions directly from the United States, to the point where there's mentions of hiring Black Americans in the English in these English companies and institutions, and also indigenous people. They use the term BIPOC, so Black, Indigenous, People of Color. Who are the Indigenous people in England? The Celts? Like, it doesn't apply, which brings me back to my point last video. It's this unfortunate aspect of the importation of this belief system, this critical social justice and wokeness, that whatever applies in the U.S. applies around the world, and you'll see their intellectuals coming to Canada and saying the same damn stuff. It's, it's like they don't realize that the rest of the world's different. We have a different history. We have a different cultural norm. We don't share the same racial divide and slavery background. You can talk about things like were we using indentured servitude, and certainly we've done nasty things to people. I learned about the coal mines in Nova Scotia when we went and visited there, how we sent the army to put those guys back underground when World War I happened and we needed coal, and they were trying to go on strike to get better wages and living conditions, because it was one of those things like you hear about in the horrible stories where people are indebted to the company for the places they live and the food they eat and the clothes on their backs, and they never get out from under that debt, and because they're just not paid enough. And it was a horrible situation for them, but we sent the army and forced them back underground. And so they were the Scottish immigrants and Irish immigrants and English immigrants, of course, who were forced under. So the history is negative in many ways for all of us, but that's not what we do here. What we do here is we look at what's going on around us now. My job for the number of years I've got left on this world is to try and make the world a slightly better place if I can, in any way I can. And that's what everyone has to do. Each individual needs to do that. And that's how society progresses, and that's how things go forward. And treating entire groups of people based on inherent, inescapable things that they're born with, like skin color, etc., and grouping them in those ways, we know instinctively is wrong and doesn't promote the kind of life that we want to live and the kind of society we want to live in. So I think it will get rejected eventually, and hopefully not too far distant future. The truth of the matter is, in these institutions, in the people in the street, you hear about people marching the streets and carrying signs saying silence is violence, and about whatever it is they're protesting, and they're trying to cow people into not resisting and into keeping their mouths shut. And the thing about it is, you can do that. You can achieve keeping people quiet in some ways by threat of violence or by threat of social or work-based retaliation, losing your job and losing your status. But it doesn't stop people from thinking, and it doesn't keep them from thinking that this is wrong. And when the tide turns, it'll turn in a horrible way for those people who are carrying the pitchforks now. We won't forget who you are. We know who you are. The GOP in the States know who Lindsey Graham is, and that bootlicking moron, and sorry, I had to say it, started out as an anti-Trumper, and once it became clear who held the keys to the party, he very quickly changed his tune. I mean, it's just so pathetic to see, and I can't imagine these guys succeeding in the long run. In the long run, they'll be remembered for what they've done now and what they did after January, when all the wingnuts that Trump catered to showed up at Capitol Hill and took a run at the building. So anyway, we've got our problems here. We've got weak-kneed Willie there, Trudeau, unfortunately, too worried about the impressions of foreign countries on travel restrictions to protect us from variants. That's just, I can't imagine putting that kind of concern about the people from in government and the the reputation of Canada over the lives of the people who live here. It's a simple thing. We have to protect ourselves from these variants getting out of control, which it's, I guess, too late now. But if we just held off a little bit, just think of the number of people who wouldn't be infected and potentially would still be alive right now if we'd just been able to hold the Chinese off from bringing it from Wuhan, hold the people coming from England with the South African variant. It doesn't matter what country it is. This isn't about prejudice against Asians or English or whoever has got the variant. It's about protecting your people, and that's why island countries like Australia and New Zealand are able to do it. They don't have the borders that people rush across like we do with the U.S., and they have put in place the kind of policy that controls these people coming in and out of their countries, and they've suffered very little in terms of relative damage and death. So I'm not forgetting that either. And there's enough blame to go around. Certainly, Doug Ford stepped in it huge as far as I'm concerned. He's trying to keep people from traveling around. He's trying to keep people, focus on what you can do, Doug. Don't try and control us to the point where we don't leave our homes. That's a waste of time, and frankly, keeping people inside their homes and not allowing them to go outside to do outside activities has been shown to be, a pointless effort. People don't get sick when they go outside, and the 1 in a million chance that something does happen, you know what, we got higher odds than that just going to get a coffee from Tim Hortons or whatever. So yeah. And with respect to the last video I did and pointing out the idea, the concept of picking in groups and out groups when it comes to providing the vaccine that's not based on science, that's got to end too. That came from critical social justice. It came from the idea that there's groups that are inherently underserved. I know I just read an article where some scientists did a deep dive on several of these articles that said that minorities are underserved by the medical system in the States. And if that was true, then that's a horrible indictment to the people and the system that's supposed to cure disease. So they looked at where it came from. The first time they saw it mentioned was in a national public radio show, and it quoted a study that apparently produced data that showed this was true, that black people in the U.S. were less likely to get tested, less likely to have, and they read the paper, and it said no such thing. In fact, the data wasn't even broken out that way. So it couldn't say that kind of thing. It was nothing of the kind was said anyway. No such data was produced, and in fact, no one ever found anything. Anyone ever looking for it ever found any indication that was the case. But this particular paper has been quoted many, many times, and the last time they saw it quoted was, I think, in March of this year. Once again, indicating, reinforcing the concept that black people are underserved by the U.S. Medical services community, and especially in COVID. and it didn't say that. So once something like this gets spread, it propagates and perpetuates. And one of the writers of this debunking paper was black himself. Said, when I saw this, the first thing I thought was, well, that sounds like it could be true. And then he researched it and found it wasn't. And he says this is the kind of horrible thing that it can get perpetuated, and it starts to build a lack of trust. So what it really does in the end, when you write this kind of thing, you think you're defending a group of underserved people, of people who are marginalized, and what you end up doing is developing a mistrust within that group so that they don't believe and trust in the medical community. And in fact, it does the opposite of what you're hoping. It creates an atmosphere where they are underserved. It creates the underserved world that you think exists that doesn't. So anyway, I think people work awfully hard to treat people as evenly as possible, at least in our medical services, and I think south of the border too, where they can. And to denigrate them in that way doesn't serve anybody. So I think that does it for now. Hope you like my yellow sweater. I hopefully won't need it that much in the near future because it's going to warm up. And I'm going to get power up north this week, hopefully. So another good thing to have happen. And life will resume, and hopefully we all get to go and have a beer on the front deck. All right, then. Have a good one. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.